Haunting in Venice is the latest movie adaptation of Agatha Christie's books by Kenneth Branagh. I watched the movie with doubt in my mind because I'm not a big fan of these movies because they have never seemed to work. They're fine sort of movies, but they just slip the mind once you watch the movie. A Haunting in Venice is a solid movie that does its best, and in some aspects it does, but fails for the depth it's seeking. When I say depth, I don't mean just a shallow story or terrible characters, but that the story itself has no purpose. Think of depth like a giant pond that gets deeper as you walk in, but this new pond just looks so deep with nothing in it. It's shallow. I don't mean that every story needs depth, but does need a purpose. The purpose fuels every choice and character in a story. You can look at a movie like Shaun of the Dead as an example. In Shaun of the Dead, the story is a parody of zombie films, but at the same time puts its comedic twist on it. Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg put their own spin on a genre, which is their purpose to make a great movie. But at the same time, the depth is still there about an aimless man who, by the end of the movie, finds a purpose, and his friend also becomes a responsible human being rather than to be just stuck up little kids all the time. But Haunting in Venice tries this but fails. Haunting in Venice follows Hercule Poirot after World War II, where he's retired living in Venice. He's not just retired but a broken down version of himself. He sees the world as a horrible place that has no hope. He's given up and is an old bitter man.
Please understand, madam, I would welcome with open arms any honest sign of devil or demon or ghost. For if there is a ghost, there is a soul. If there is a soul, there is a God who made it. And if we have God, we have everything, meaning, order, justice. But I have seen too much of the world, countless crimes, 2 wars, the bitter evil of human indifference, and I conclude, no God, no ghosts. With respect, no mediums.
He then meets his old friend Ariadne Oliver, played by Tina Fey. Ariadne Oliver is a writer looking for her next story when she finds in an old building that was once an orphanage. Alicia Drake, the daughter of the famous singer Rowena Drake, fell from the top story, and she was found dead. Her mother is having a seance on Halloween night to talk to her. She has invited Jace Reynolds, played by Michelle Yeoh, who can apparently talk to the dead. Ariadne Oliver forces Poirot to come to the seance while Poirot doesn't believe in ghosts. But Reynolds is found dead in the night and it's up to Poirot to find out who did it. That's the plot. And first off, I want to talk about the film because it looks absolutely beautiful. It looks mesmerizing and makes me feel like I need to be in Venice. The film, the way it's shot, it makes it look so much more engaging and gives a distinct sense of color, which I like in the age where we don't really get that anymore. The second is Kenneth Branagh's direction and the camera work of the film. The intention of using Dutch angles and off-looking camera work makes it feel much more like a horror film than a murder mystery. It makes sense for the story of the film, but it also adds another layer of small horror to make it even better. But the moment the film doesn't execute what it wants to be is because it's trying to be multiple things at once. The film is trying to explore Poirot and his broken down character, while also trying to make the audience and Poirot question if ghosts actually exist or an actual person committed the murder. But the main theme can be broken down into one single line. This line appears at the end of the film when after Poirot solved everything, Ariadne asks him, "Did you see any ghosts?" And he lies and he actually says no. But then she says, "No, what did you see?" So he says, "The only thing I know is that the ghosts that we have in our own lives, we have to face them and accept them, and that's the only way we can move on." And this line really kind of sums up the whole film. The idea that we must face our ghosts and accept them to move on is a good idea, but it doesn't work. The problem is that the movie never keeps us in the center of the film or represents the idea strongly in the film. We only see Poirot really as a broken down man who by the end of the film finds his mojo back. But it's never been the focus of the story nor the depth the film really tries to show in the film. Let's look at another murder mystery that does this perfectly. Knives Out is a film which talks about class. The whole idea is about how class makes people think differently and act towards each other, even though what matters is the person itself. But this idea works in the film not because it's just here, but rather because it's shown everywhere. The Thornbys are rich, successful beings willing to do anything for more power. One such example is whenever Marta talks to the family, all of them say the same thing. Throughout the film, everybody says this one line to Marta: "You should have been at the funeral, but I was outvoted." Linda says this when she meets Marta first in the beginning, and Walt even says this later on when Marta nearly collapses and faints. This one line itself shows the contradictions between what they're saying to what they actually do. The film explores class by revealing how hypocritical these people are and in their hearts, as Blanc calls them, are vultures. But this idea is resonant throughout the film. Even during the testimonies, every character talks about how they're closest to Harlan. They all blow the cake with him. This makes the idea of class an actual topic in the film with much more than just one line thrown in the film. It also allows the film to balance the actual whodunit. Haunting in Venice should have put their theme more resonant in the layers of the story. The doctor, played by Jamie Dornan, represents the ideal the most alongside Poirot. He's suffering from PTSD after being in the war. But who else? There's nobody. Everybody else is either a caretaker, the mother, or the fiance of Alicia Drake. And that's not a bad thing. It's just that the idea of accepting our own demons and trying to face them and making sure that that's the only way to get through isn't really resonant or shown through. And so when we see the actual theme said, it doesn't hit, or this film itself doesn't stick, because the murder mystery itself isn't really the focus, nor is the theme itself. And that's why you forget that this movie exists, and so do the others, because they try to explore this depth and these issues, but also try to be a murder mystery, and it just doesn't work. It could either be one or the other, or it could be both, but it has to require better writing and some changes to the original books. Now, don't get me wrong, but I love the original books, but it also, in the original books, it wasn't really like the way it is like in these movies. And so that's why these movies don't work, because they try to do too many things and neither sticks, and they don't spend enough time making a strong enough screenplay to back up those things. But this movie isn't completely bad, and it's actually really good to watch once, and it is a great time. And if you figure it out who did it, it's pretty fun too still. And so I do suggest watching it once. So thanks for watching, and please subscribe.